thank the Rotary Club for doing checks on the elders and making phone calls. So I think is the city's taking. City also has a link for people who want to sign up for what we call it checks.
Wellness checks.
Yeah, homeless checks. I mean, not homeless checks.
Wellness checks.
Wellness checks. Yeah. Well, I know the mayor put out a video on that. And also, let's thank the city for recognizing Asian American Pacific Island Heritage Month. It's too bad that the city has been supporting and showing that the way in terms of diversity in our city. And it's too bad that there's a lot of xenophobia and a lot of attacks against Asians because of COVID-19. And this city and this council has stood up to that. And we will not tolerate that. It's important that we all recognize that everybody is a person. There is nobody beneath anybody else. And it's important that we recognize that the diversity actually makes us a stronger country. And that's what this country's been built on. So I'm hoping that we, this is not that we welcome and we also embrace our community. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Pappen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as you can see, several of us are in the Mills colors. So, and I see the signs going up throughout the city. We are very proud of the 2020 graduates. And hopefully a celebration will continue on.
AKA seniors.
Yes, everyone. And also, I know it's going to be scholarship time. We have various scholarships that are going to go out, and very proud of all of our students and the parents that put them through all this, especially during this time frame. So hopefully we can show the spirit of all of our graduates through the city in some way, shape, or form. Or I hope we can work and come up with something. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move on. Sorry?
Sorry.
Yes, Councilwoman Oliva? Yes.
I just got another text after I spoke, and it was from Arlene McBride. And the seniors want to thank everybody for the advice of the free mask distribution at the library parking lot. And also to see if whoever needs the delivery needs, we're on that. I've been in touch with most of our members, but thank you, Annie, for inspiring me to reach to each of them. Enjoyed helping Rochelle Saturday. Rochelle's one of our members, and it was her birthday. So she's they're engaged. She's texting. So if we can help them with Zoom, once again, I mentioned that, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are we going to do that again? I'm sorry to interrupt here, but we've had requests that if we can continue that effort, some other people within our residents are interested in also obtaining masks.
I think the Lions Club might be interested in doing. I'm sure they were interested in doing it again. It's just a matter of demand, and I'm sure getting the mask. I don't, that's the only drawback. And I think the Lions Club, on behalf of the Lions Club, they had a great time. They really appreciated the opportunity to provide those masks. And also I got to thank the city for that too, because the city provided 1,000 masks for seniors in particular, and they were delivered. And we delivered about 150 masks to seniors. So it was a really good joint venture, and a lot of the community came out, but I can talk more about that later. But we just thank everybody who came out, the community, and all the other clubs who came to support giving masks to our citizens and seniors.
Okay, great. Yeah, that was it. Yes, Vice Mayor Schneider, and then we will move on.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No
just also want to say, go Cappuccino. Congratulations, Cappuccino grads. And I'm sure we have in town some Sarah and Mercy grads and some of the schools in the city. Anyway, congratulations to all of our grads, including those Bulldogs who will be graduating too.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much for that. And once again, congratulations to our graduates, and hopefully the drive-through ceremonies that will be allowed will be big successes this year. Okay, let's move on to the agenda overview and staff briefing. Mr. Williams?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to you and members of the City Council. Tom Williams, City Manager. I'd like to just briefly share some updated information from the county's website. You can find it here on our current data countywide regarding COVID-19. I know the city council sees this based on their weekly meetings and briefings that are held countywide, but for the members of the community and the public, there's currently 1,497 cases in San Mateo County, a total of 65 deaths. We're really flattening out the curve, doing a great job sheltering in place and doing everything that needs to be done relative to the governor's order and the county health officer, Dr. Scott Morrow's order. One of the new pieces of data that have come out is city by city. And as I scroll down here, you can see the city of Millbrae currently has 19 reported cases. And we'll continue to monitor, working with the county, those cases and continue to provide updates. But I think the face shields, the social distancing that's occurring out at our businesses, everyone in the city of Millbrae is doing a great job. So I ask the public continue with that outstanding effort. And then real quick, I'd like to show the where we are with San Mateo Strong. We have currently there's a total of about 1.4 million in grant funding as of May 11th. There are 3 businesses that I just received this afternoon that have received grant funding. As the information comes up, I'll have more of a detailed report at the next council meeting as to what those businesses are, but so far 3 of them have been funded. City contributions, you can see Atherton at 15,000, Belmont at 100,000, Burlingame at $500,000, Colma at 15, Daly City at 75,000, Hillsborough at 20, Milno Park 70,000, Millbrae 100,000, Pacifica 50,000, Portola Valley 20,000, Redwood City 300,000, San Carlos 112,000, San Mateo 400,000, and Woodside 10,000. So it's a nice level of participation by local municipalities into SM Strong Fund for our local businesses. Real quick, just in terms of private foundation contributions, we have an additional 470,000 in new funding. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, City of Redwood City and North Fair Oaks received a $300,000 contribution. The San Bruno Community Foundation donated 150,000. Woodside Community Foundation, 20,000. So things are continuing to increase. I think all in all, there's over $7 million in the fund. And feedback is all the local businesses have been very appreciative. We've been doing great work in trying to get the word out to all of the Millbrae businesses. And I just, anybody that has any need, please contact us here at City Hall, and we can continue to direct and support our local businesses. So, Mr. Mayor, with that, I'll move into the agenda very briefly. On the agenda, normal calendar of events, reports of bills and claims. I will note, yes, we did hear the council relative to getting the committees and commissions geared back up and using Zoom to update all of them on city business and start to get things moving again. There are no approval of the meeting minutes for the regularly scheduled meeting of April 28th. There are no oral reports from any city committee or commission chairs this evening. Then we move on to public communication, and that's 3 minutes. Any item not on tonight's council agenda. I believe we have 1 or 2 public comments that are Angela Lewis will read into the record. Then we move to the consent calendar, items 5, 6, and 7. Item number 5, I would like to just remove from the agenda. That is to reject all bids for the Millbrae Transit Center to Spur Trail connection and gap closure. We were able to relook at the funding and the allocation. So we'll bring back to the city council the meeting of May 26th, selection of actually the low bid contractor. So we're not going to reject the bids. I'd like to remove that item from the agenda. Item number 6 is to consider a resolution awarding a construction contract to KJ Woods for the 2020 Larkspur Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project in the amount of $1,088,000, and authorizing city manager as designee to execute the contract. Item number 7 is to consider adoption of a resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the 4th addendum for agreement for professional services for the Group 4 architecture firm and contract. This is for design and support services through our design, build, and construction of the recreation center. Moving to public hearing, item number 8, that is an item that will be continued to May 26th. That's the development impact fee ordinance. Moving to existing business, we do not have any existing business. And then item number 9 under new business is to review a letter in response to the California High-Speed Rail's 2020 business plan. We do have a revised letter that we had submitted earlier this afternoon. That's part of the agenda, and I believe all the council members received it earlier today. And that concludes the agenda review, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. See, there are a couple of hands raised, but I think those are from the previous agenda item. I don't know, Councilwoman Pappen? No? Councilman Lee?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom, have you, Mr. Tom Williams, City Manager, have you, can you give us a little briefing about the testing that's available?
Yeah, you know, council member, I was going to brief everyone this evening on that, but there's some additional information that I need to get more actually correct information relative to the county opening up testing to everyone. I kind of got different information on when that's available and when that is open. So I know you're all on the briefing, but I was going to present it tonight, but I'm just not sure. It is going to be open to the public. The website is the baseline.com website. So I would encourage anyone to go ahead and log on to the baseline.com, fill out the paperwork and the questionnaire. I do know that will be, it was
Mr. Mayor, Tom, have you, Mr. Tom Williams?
Wayne,
We
something
have some
happened.
echoing there.
Yeah, I think that's perhaps the delay on MCTV. So I will bring that back to the city council, and even before the city council meeting, when I get information, we will post it on all of our social media and get the word out as well. But right now, baseline.com, people can log on and fill out the paperwork. I was going to say it's been very tightly controlled to first responders, but according to the county, they are opening that up to the general public.
Mayor?
Yes, Vice Mayor Schneider?
City Manager, thank you. City Manager, did you mean projectbaseline.com or baseline.com?
Projectbaseline.com, that is correct. Yes.
Okay, so projectbaseline, all one word.com.
Correct.
On that. And this is a good time to remind our public that if they go to the city website and go to e-notify and they sign up for the city newsletter, we can get that information out to them. I don't know what percentage of our residents are signed up for that, but it's really important now that all of our residents and businesses sign up for that e-notify. It's the best way to get the information.
Okay. So let's see. So now moving on to the approval of minutes, we have the minutes from the regular meeting of April 28th, 2020.
I move to approve the minute.
I'll second it.
Mayor Holliber,
Okay. Yes.
we do have 2 items of comment, public comment for this. If you would
On
like,
the
I will.
approval of the minutes.
Yes, there's two
Okay,
comments that
sure.
were submitted. Okay. So the first public comment was submitted by Lou Sandrini requesting a correction to the minutes. In the April 28th minutes, it was recorded that his comment where he voiced discontent and unsatisfactory performance by the city manager, he was requesting that corrected to be Lou Sandrini voiced his discontent with the lack of communication with Mayor Holliber. So that was the comment as presented by Lou Sandrini. And then the second one was just a quick comment by Vice Mayor Schneider requesting a change to her council comments on the last line of council comments, where it would be changed to read, we have a special legislation committee meeting to prepare comments to the FAA on supersonic jet noise impacts. So those are the two comments submitted.
I'm fine with that changes. I'm fine with those changes.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Lee. Is there a second?
Second.
Yes.
Okay, second from Vice Mayor Schneider. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Peppin,
Aye.
Councilmember Oliva,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Schneider,
Aye.
Mayor Holliver.
Aye.
The minutes of the April 28th council meeting with the corrections noted are approved.
Okay. Let's go on to public communication. This is the opportunity for members of the public to speak on any items not on the agenda, and they were submitted through email. And once again, the public comments do not necessarily reflect the views of the city council or of the city of Millbrae.
Oh my
General.
God, it's really good.
You might want to mute yourself there. Okay, so let's go to the public comments, please.
Okay, we have 3 public comments that were submitted this evening. The first public comment is by PJ. Hello, Millbrae City Council. The seal behind the council lists the incorporation date as January 15th, 1948. However, Millbrae was incorporated on January 14th, 1948. This January 14th date is confirmed both on the Millbrae website and its official town seal. Please make the correction on the seal placed behind the council or explain the discrepancy. If this is attended to, I will donate $100 to a Millbrae charity of the mayor's choosing. I will donate it even if it's not. Thanks, stay safe, and God bless our city. The second public comment item is submitted by Aaron Mulcreevy Burke of the Millbrae Pancake House. Dear Mayor Ruben D. Holliver, my name is Aaron Burke and I am one of the owners of the Millbrae Pancake House. My 3 sisters and I grew up working at our family business and have been proud to carry on the legacy of a female-owned and operated business. This past Sunday, May 10th, we celebrated 61 years in business. This emotional event was celebrated quietly with a small group of our surviving employees, each of them exhausted after a hectic day of operating our recently converted drive-through business. I write this letter with a heavy heart as our business teeters on the brink of bankruptcy. We suffered a devastating $73,000 loss in the month of March after the public health order shut our doors to the public. With an innovative spirit that we never have witnessed before, we developed a plan to reinvent the business as a drive-through takeout service. My sisters and I have put our lives on hold and have spent every waking hour and countless sleeping nights trying to save our business. In the month of April, our reduced scale operation resulted in a $46,000 loss, and we continue to bleed money into the month of May as we continue to operate at approximately 25 to 30% of usual business. We received a lifeline with some PPP money, which has helped us cover rent and has put money in the accounts of struggling employees. However, this money is merely a stopgap for the inevitable demise of our business unless aggressive action is taken immediately. The real life stories of pain, grief, and hardship that we have witnessed in the lives of our dedicated staff has been unbearable. Some have packed up with their families and belongings and fled the state, seeking refuge with family and friends elsewhere. Their pain is real, and the silence of our elected officials on their behalf has been deafening. We scour news reports for announcements from our public officials every day, anxiously awaiting directions and words of hope for businesses and the employees suffering from economic calamity. However, it seems that we only hear the same message of fear and ambiguity each day. We want to reestablish a business that is profitable. We want to bring back a business that will once again be a catalyst for local, state, and federal government tax revenue. We understand this is the backbone of our nation. We plan to once again run a business that will provide livelihood for our employees. We want to reinvigorate our local economy, once again purchasing farm fresh eggs from a local ranch in Aptos, California, at the rate of 52,000 eggs a month. We want to rejuvenate a business that has been a staple in Millbrae since 1959. Just as we have demonstrated leadership in our community and acted in total compliance with the great cause of the public health order, we now ask that our local government officials reciprocate. We are begging for a voice. We need a local government that will demonstrate strength, unity, and hope. We are desperate for innovation and support from our local Millbrae City Hall. As we anticipate a reopening, we are aware that businesses will not be as usual. We have been working each and every day to plan and coordinate a reopening that will be safe for our customers and our employees. As part of this, we believe that a temporary outdoor seating patio in our parking lot can be a lifeline. So that is 3 minutes. So did you want me to continue, or I'm at the 3-minute mark?
You know, I know the comment was received by the full council and our city staff today, and they're aware of the request. So I think we can move on to the next.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. The next public comment item is from Lou Sandrini. Mayor Holliber and council members. 2 months ago, I asked Mayor Holliber to discuss with me a city business incident where City Manager Tom Williams was deceitful, dishonest, and lacked management professionalism. Notwithstanding any particular perception one may have of Mr. Williams's character, the seriousness of his egregious bad conduct demands he be held accountable for this incident. Mayor Holliber will not hold him accountable. He even refuses to discuss the matter with me. Why is Mayor Holliber being so disrespectful of the public trust and his responsibilities to Millbrae? It reflects so poorly on his political maturity, his character, and his competency, knowledge, skills, and abilities to even be on the council. I cannot imagine why he is acting so irresponsibly in this case. He either does not know better or simply does not care. If he ever seeks a council seat again, the voters should reject him. After 40 years of public service, I know how fruitless it can be to fight City Hall when there is the kind of corruption evidenced in this case. You, council members, should at least censure Mayor Holliber to avoid being a party to the corruption. Letting Williams off scot-free is a travesty. I have done my best as a responsible citizen. I know I lost cause. I am sorry Millbrae loses in this case. We can only hope Mayor Holliber and Williams see where they went so wrong and learn how to do it right. God save the city. Lou Sandrini, Millbrae resident. And that is the end of public communication.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lewis. All right, moving on to the consent calendar. Item 5 has been removed, so we have items 6 and 7. Yes, Mr. Lee?
Just want to piggyback on the public comment and just let people know that our mayor and the city manager have been posting information out to help out our small businesses. And I know everybody is struggling, and everybody are anxious to get back to making some sort of reality. I mean, not reality, to what we used to have. But I just like to let you know that the city has information. And also, if you go to sanmataostrong.org, there are also grants being given to small businesses as well. So we are trying to get the information out. The City Hall and the mayor and the city manager have been working pretty hard to try to get the information out in many different ways. And we definitely want to keep our some of our more older businesses in going in their city. So I mean, we as a city also are in very serious financial needs as well. So it's not just the businesses. So we all have to come together. We all have to pull together in order to be successful.
Okay. So, Councilwoman Oliva?
Yep. Mayor Holliber, I know it's not time for us to respond to any public comment, but times are a little bit different here. And I want to kind of coattail on what Councilmember Lee said. San Mateo Strong is in, just because I probably read email after our city manager, they're topping 8.2 million, and every dollar goes to those in need. And I can so relate as a business owner to Millbrae Pancake House. And I hope to God that they will apply for San Mateo Strong, because 3 businesses in Millbrae have been granted this as of today. And there are heartwarming stories, just like what we heard. And I know they'll qualify. So City Manager Williams, I'm going to ask you if they could contact you and you can help them get a direct line to Roseanne and San Mateo Strong. That's something we don't want to see like dissolve in Millbrae. We all love the Millbrae Pancake House.
I'll just add to that real quick. We have been in contact with them, and also we'll start to prepare a plan not only for their restaurant but other restaurants when the shelter in place and dining is allowed for outdoor seating. So that's one of the things that Millbrae Pancake House is very interested in. So we will do that.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Pappen?
Yeah, can we, because we do all firmly believe in the success of our businesses, and generally chambers of commerce are a lot more active. It's been disappointing to see our chamber during this time frame, and yeah, we need the city to step up more. So we as electeds are trying to do just that. I would hope that we can, as a council, start emergency procedures as quickly as possible as to outdoor seating. I know some other cities are doing that presently. They're looking at it. San Mateo, I think San Carlos and some others. And I think we should be on top of this as quickly as possible to try to help our restaurants recover, because they are the basis of our community. And we've been doing takeout and really trying to keep them going here, but it's not enough. And we have to keep people safe, but yet also keep the businesses going. So I hope we as a council can agree that we need to move on this as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to the consent calendar. We have items 6 and 7. Item 5 has been removed. Do we have a motion to approve?
So
I'll
moved.
make a motion to approve, but I have a comment, or I just want to say a comment about item 7 after, or item 6 after.
Okay.
I don't want to
Here's
slow down the vote.
Okay, all right. So sounds like we have a motion from Councilwoman Oliva. We have a second.
Yes.
Okay, Vice Mayor Schneider for a second. Okay. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen,
Aye.
Councilmember Oliva,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Schneider,
Aye.
Mayor Holliber.
Aye.
Consent calendar items 6 and 7 are unanimously approved.
Okay. Vice Mayor Schneider?
Thank you, Mayor. Sometimes consent calendar is really hard, and this comment is more for the public that might be watching. Item 6 is the sewer pipes for Larkspur, which will then lead to the repaving of Larkspur, which is something that everybody has been asking for years. So it's very exciting. But I know it sounds silly to be excited over sewer pipes, but it is very exciting. And I'm very happy for all of us. But also I want to say thank you to staff. That's the first staff report I've read in 4 years that actually embedded in the staff report. So right there on page 2, exactly what's going to be affected and which phase is on there. So any of you who use Larkspur, I encourage you to go look at this agenda item, and you might even want to benchmark it or copy it over so that you will know what will be rolling out over the next year for you. It is, so again, staff, I really enjoyed that staff report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment. All right, let's move on to the public hearing has been postponed to May 26th. So we'll move on to item number 9, which is the letter response to the California High-Speed Rail 2020 business plan. Looks like we have a presentation.
Did we all go mute?
Mr. Williams, is that you?
I was waiting for the lag on MCTV, and I think it's good to go. So
Okay.
just a few slides here to brief you on the draft letter response High-speed rail released their 2020 business plan draft on February 12th of this year. Comments to the plan are due June 1st. And so this is a draft letter that all the council members are desirous to sign. And so tonight we'll review that and go through some of the overall comments. So as you know, apologize, the City of Millbrae is the only station and stop planned between the San Francisco and San Jose segment. The reason for that is our proximity to San Francisco Airport, and we are the only multimodal transit station that serves BART, Caltrain, Samtrans. So as planned currently, and we'll get into it in just a minute, the California High-Speed Rails plan, it has a significant impact on the City of Millbrae. And one of the main issues is the California High-Speed Rail has totally disregarded the adopted specific plan, the Millbrae Stationary Specific Plan that was adopted in 1998 and amended in 2016. And I'd like to take this opportunity to note that there's been a lot of communication, I think a lot of confusion as to the 2016 amendment. The 2016 amendment amended height and density to increase the number of housing units within the plan. The 1998 plan and the circulation element within that plan has not changed, and it did not change when the plan was amended in 2016. And so that's important because the station access and the circulation originally envisioned by the City of Millbrae in conjunction with BART, Caltrain, Samtrans, and the airport has never changed. So currently, the draft plan, it does not adequately describe track improvements, new trackways, or the configuration as it relates to Millbrae. The plan does not describe the impacts of the homes on Hemlock Avenue directly to the north. I think that the neighborhood to the north in Hemlock Avenue has really been missed with high-speed rails community outreach program, because us here talking to the Hemlock neighborhood, they had never heard of high-speed rail taking somewhere between 12 feet and 15 feet in their backyard. And I do have some photos to share here a little bit later. The plan, third bullet, minimizes the conflicts and ignores the city's approved Millbrae Sarah Station Transit-Oriented Development Project. There's 444 units. In the letter, we say 444 to 488 units because there's an administrative 10% increase that the developer could administratively pursue. So the project that's approved is 444 units, but they could increase to 488 at any time. And then lastly, the plan minimizes the environmental impact process. It's optimistic and it's unrealistic, we believe, in terms of the project schedule, especially in light of the unresolved issues here in the City of Millbrae. So I wanted to briefly show you on the left is the approved Millbrae Sarah Station. Again, combination of 444 housing units, 250,000 square feet of office, and 30,000 square feet of retail. The current BART station is kind of on the lower right side of the screen, but this is an approved project. On the right is High-Speed Rail's only proposed plan that they are clearing with their environmental impact report. And the problem is it takes all of this development, high-density housing, transit-oriented development, smart growth, everything that that people talk about with SB 50 and what should happen around a transit station. And High-Speed Rail's plan turns that into a large surface parking area that totally demolishes the entire west side of the specific plan. So this is a big issue for us here at the City of Millbrae. We've worked with the High-Speed Rail staff for over a year, trying to integrate their needs and their specifications within the approved project, working closely with the land developer, Vince Muzi's team, and their architect to integrate High-Speed Rail's needs into the project. And as of last Thursday, High-Speed Rail has rejected our proposed plan. This is the Hemlock Neighborhood to the north of the station. The yellow line represents the 10 to 12 foot setback.
Oh my God.
And this is something I don't believe the Hemlock Neighborhood has ever seen. And as far since I've been on board, as far as I know, high-speed rail staff has never disclosed this in any of the neighborhood meetings or community meetings. So as you can see, that line follows the current high-speed rail alignment and very much encroaches and impacts the backyards of these neighbors. That's Hillcrest Avenue, and you can kind of put it in perspective, the overcrossing on the Hillcrest. And then lastly, I'll finish with the envision of 2008, the excitement about high-speed rail. It was shown to the voters that high-speed rail would be underground, both the station and the tracks. And we believe that there's still an opportunity, and should high-speed rail proceed in Millbrae, the only alternative should be below grade, both with the station and the rail alignment. And I think that is what the expectation of the voters in the vision of voting in 2008 for the bonds should be. So tonight, the next steps is to discuss, modify, accept, or direct changes to the letter. It is due on June 1st. So if there are any changes, we can either discuss it tonight, get approval of the council, or bring it back to the second meeting here in May and get it finalized. So with that, Mayor, that concludes the presentation, and be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Let's go to Councilwoman Oliva, unless that was from the previous agenda item. Looks like your hand's still up. No? Okay, Councilwoman Pappen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, if somebody could clarify the process here. This just sounds like a letter that could be thrown anywhere. And I do believe we're trying to make a record of objection. How does this generally work? Because we do want to be clear in our objections. Does anybody know?
Well, I mean, I'll take a stab at it. I think Mike Conneran is on the phone as well. So this is our response to their draft plan. In June, based on the high-speed rail schedule, they will release their draft environmental impact report. Our comments to the environmental impact report are extremely important, and I think that provides our legal framework.
No. Okay, hang on one second here. It doesn't even have a ray. It should be regarding Millbrae's objections. I mean, this is just a letter I think could end up anywhere here. I mean, if we don't even have the regarding in the body of the letter here, is there, Mr. Conneran, a specific way that we get this into the record instead of just a round file?
I'm not sure what record. This would seem to be relevant to their issuance of their business plan. So they've issued a draft business plan, as the city manager indicated. The city is commenting on that draft business plan. Hopefully the high-speed rail will consider those comments when it finalizes their business plan, which is something they issue every 2 years. There's not really a process. I mean, this is simply them saying what they're going to do. It is, I believe, a legislative requirement that they do one every 2 years, but it's really completely separate from the environmental process. And the city's comments on the environmental document would be appropriate after they release their draft environmental impact report.
Okay, if I might too, the pictures shown in Mr. Williams' presentation tonight were some we have never seen before and are exceptionally appalling, if not staggering, as to the infringement on homeowners within the city of Millbrae. Yes, those. Okay. This is insane as to the land grab that's being proposed here. And I just, that that alone, these pictures alone should be included in here. Are they? I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
just-
I'd not seen these photos either, but I think that it would be a good attachment to the letter.
Yeah, and Mr. Williams, there's something that keeps coming up on your screen here, right smack in the middle.
Yeah, that little yellow box with the red
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah, I'm trying to,
There you go.
There you go. So I think we need to emphasize here the number of property owners that this is just nothing the council would ever agree to. And the impact is appalling. I do think we need to be more direct in our letter here instead of beating around the bush and basically saying they won't meet with us, we won't meet with us, that kind of thing. I think we need to be really very, very specific as to what the proposed plan is doing to housing, not only housing, but affordable housing. Everything the governor, the state legislature, everything that the state of California has said that they want local jurisdictions to do, and we are doing. I will warn you too, being on transportation agency, the use of acronyms, just even in your paragraph here, if we could try to get away from using acronyms for normal people who read them, that becomes kind of distracting. So, I mean, you've got, unfortunately, in bold, CHSR, the only proposal plan for Millbrae Station is inconsistent with adopted MSASP. Then you should just go right into it, and demands destruction of high density housing, approved housing. I mean, I don't know why we're beating around the bush here. This is really something that needs to be clearly stated, and we have to put those pictures of homes being destroyed in there. And high-speed rail basically should be called out. This 2020 plan was something that was never presented to us, and the impact on our residents. So, I mean, I don't want to go through word by word here. Mr. Musi has also sent us an email which points out some significant impacts. And I want to encourage people too. Sorry, I'm kind of all around here. My apologies. I want to encourage people, the council, everybody can write in their objections to this. We need to give all those residents this address, and we have to get our objections on record. So I'll try to be more specific without rambling further. My apologies.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Councilman Pabineau. This is a challenge to, the reason why this was placed on the agenda was to have a letter signed by all 5 council members. If we could have expedited it and done it as, a mayor's letter or whatnot. So it might be challenging to incorporate, 5 different perspectives in terms of the wording into the final draft here. As to the acronyms, they're all spelled out in the body of the letter before they're ever mentioned. So CHSRA, they know what that is. That's the California High Speed Rail Authority. They know who they are. So I'm not too concerned about that.
That's defined.
But we can certainly add, some more information. We're also trying to be at least somewhat, diplomatic here and take the high road if we can.
They're
Right.
not taking the high road, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, and they never have.
Understood.
And if I might, just one last point here. Yeah. This transit agency is basically disregarding the entire region here in their impact. Let me point out for anybody who's viewing here, BART has 3 tracks. They only use 2. Caltrain, which promised everyone when they were electrified that they would maintain or share tracks with high-speed rail. And now the fact that high-speed rail is not even considering negotiating with BART over their unused track, and they're trying to do a land grab to interfere with approved housing and affordable housing, I find appalling. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. Councilwoman Oliva?
Thank you, Mayor. I love the beginning of the letter. The opening is great. Like 2020, this thing should be open. We should be cutting a ribbon and we should be on our way. And you call them out. Awesome. Fantastic. But repeatedly in the letter, we ask for alternatives. We request to meet. And I think all of us know that the definition of insanity. We keep on doing the same thing and we get the same results. And that's where I find the ending of the letter very weak. And I'd like to put an ending to the letter, which should be much shorter because they've heard everything already. When and how are we going to meet? Give them 3 dates, sit at the table, don't CC our electives. They are our representatives. They should be at the table as well. This is the most important thing that we have going in Millbrae, and how and when we meet, 3 dates, end it, ask for it, and close it up. This is, if you want to delay everything, this letter's great. It's very, like you said, Mr. Mayor, it's very diplomatic, it's very cordial, it's very nice. But if we want to get the same results, so be it. I'm not for the letter for getting any results. If it takes a team, I'll be there. I'll sign it with 3 people that say it's okay. But I don't see how we're going to move forward with this.
Okay, thank you for those comments. And this is, it's a comment on the business plan. So I think we have to make sure we keep it within that constant context. And I know there's a lot greater issues here that go well beyond the business plan. And in fact, many of the comments are really more about the EIR than about the business plan.
I agree 100%, but the business plan stated in the beginning failed. 2020, they should be open for business.
That's a good point.
So, and I love the opening. It's the writings on the wall.
Okay, Vice Mayor Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of questions first, and then I have comments. So, City Manager, you talked about our legally approved project. We all know we have a legally approved project, but what ground does that give us? What rights does it give us? And if we have rights, should we be clarifying those rights in the letter?
Well, I think, so the rights are that the city has land use authority and approved a project consistent with the Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan and the adopted environmental impact report. So it's really the property owner has the rights that are granted to them with the entitlement that the city approved the project. So really it comes down to the rights of the property owner, not really the rights of the city in this particular case.
And then the problem then is that high-speed rail can eminent domain over that?
Correct, yes.
So this could be perceived as a misuse of eminent domain, given that they had ample opportunity to say something back in 1996 and 97 and 98. And they didn't, nor did they in 2015 or 2016.
Well, they made some generic, I went back and I looked at the record, and they made some very generic comments on the environmental impact report in 2016. But the response to those comments were there was nothing substantive that was actually received by high-speed rail that needed mitigation or that needed changes. And so that's taken right from the record of the environmental consultant responding to the comments. They were just vague and not detailed.
Well, thank you. And that brings me to a point that Boris Lipkin, the Northern California High-Speed Rail Director, Executive Director, said on the last community stakeholders meeting. And he said, well, people can send us in comments, but unless they're very specific, we're just not going to do anything with them. So our comments need to be very specific. And I like what Councilwoman Pappen said. Yes, we need our partners out there to also write to High Speed Rail and to try to be as specific. Don't just say we don't like this, but say this is what we don't like and this is the remedy, unless Michael Conran has a better way of approaching it. With that, I'm going to say a couple of things. I wish that they were my own idea. They've been in the back of my head, and it's the argument I used with Sam Sita before Sam Sita wrote a lovely letter supporting the Millbrae project. So thank you to Sam Sita and Roseanne Faust for that. But basically, I think in our letter, I think it's going to need another draft. I think we have another opportunity to bring it to the 26th council meeting if need be. I like that it's going out under all 5 of our signatures. So I'm happy to wait for the 26th. It's up to the mayor, of course. But I think we need to be very specific with the losses of what High Speed Rail is doing. It's taking away housing that we are required to approve. And it's taking away property tax. In any time, that's bad news. But in the COVID recession, it's extremely bad news. I think, and again, this is not my idea, but I love this idea, especially looking at the yellow line running through the backyards and through a couple of houses, and possibly requiring the whole bridge to be rebuilt over Hillcrest. What is the cost of the land that High Speed Rail is now saying that they're going to take on that? And they need to, in their business plan, tell us where this money is going to come from. What is their estimate for the cost of that land? All of those yards, the city's property, Sarah Station property, all of that, their business plan should account for the money on that. And the other things, the developer fees, the argument I've been using in the public is, it's not just delaying of a project, it's delaying basically Millbrae's economic future on that. And we should be very specific with the losses we've already accrued and the risk that High Speed Rail is leaving for us, in that those abandoned properties, when I met with Boris, he's like, well, yeah, you can do something in 20 years. And then apparently the last month he said, well, you can do something in 5 years. So that means those abandoned properties stay abandoned for 5 more years, and they risk being broken into, they risk fire danger. It's just bad news all the way around, and we should be very specific. And the meetings that we have or haven't made, we can put that in an addendum or an attachment, since this is a letter. I just, again, since I heard Boris specifically say, if we're not specific to the technical advisory group, if you're not specific, we're just going to kind of ignore what you say. We'll just file it away, but we need to be very, very specific.
Yeah, if I can jump in here real quick, I just want to put it in perspective. So the yellow line, I just put that in for the presentation this evening. So I'll continue to use that standard visual. And we have, as staff, because we've worked on this extensively, have told High Speed Rail that putting a surface parking lot where they proposed on the right to totally disregard the build out. Now, to put it in perspective, is the bottom right here is Peter's Cafe, where the aqua roof is. And so to put it in perspective, this is all what High Speed Rail is proposing is the entire west side of the specific planning area. So Millbrae Avenue is on the right, on the south. Victoria, which is the northern limit line of the specific plan, is on the left. So to some, this may look like a relatively small parking lot, 288. It's massive. It is the whole west side, half of our specific plan. And it just decimates our economic development, our housing growth. And so we've been clear, and I'm all in favor of shortening the letter and being more direct and saying, don't do this. I mean, I think we've asked High Speed Rail, and Mike Connor's been involved with their attorney. We've requested a year ago, this June, to have an alternative in their EIR, and it just falls on deaf ears. And so, to be specific, this obviously is not acceptable to the city of Millbrae. I don't know how it would be acceptable to anybody in the state of California, quite frankly, to just come in with a surface parking lot. But I wanted to just put it in perspective on the visuals here to show and put in perspective how large that parking lot is.
I would add in the comments too, that until we can redevelop California Drive and put in the bicycle and the pedestrian amenities, it is not safe for bike pedestrian people to access the BART station, train station now. So, and nothing high-speed rail is doing is adding to the safety of people accessing the station. And given that they won't get here for another 20 years, that's 20 years of more people at risk. And I don't know if we have any hit or injury data to put in there. And I'm not sure if the letter needs the data, that EIR would need the data on that. So, and I would also include the cost of that bridge if they have to rebuild it. They're doing grade separations for other cities, but for us, they've promised no grade separation changes. So I actually like the part in the letter that says, oh, well, we talked about undergrounding in San Francisco, but not for you in Millbrae. They treat us as if we're an environmental justice community, as if we are a community that should be of concern, but is of no concern.
Well, it seems like it would be much less expensive for them to, you know, buy out one of the BART tracks that's rarely used, as opposed to all of the cost of eminent domain, or even the cost of undergrounding, which is incredibly expensive as well. That seems to be the, you know, the better alternative, I would think, in my opinion. I'm not an expert on this, but just, you know, looking at the value of the entitled development at Sarah Station is probably, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. There's also a property, I think, on Murchison and California Drive, which their plans also show as a surface parking lot. That's, you know, not within the scale of the map that's on the screen now, but I doubt that property owner is aware of these plans.
Yeah, I can't. Is that an office building or?
I think it's a small office building, yeah, on the corner of California Drive and Murchison, I believe.
And that reminds me, they also want to move the museum, which may not make any difference in a business plan, but when it comes to the EIR, historical artifacts, historical properties carry more weight in an EIR. And the first time I talked to them, it's like, well, we'll put it in Burlingame. Well, it's the Millbrae Train Museum. It is a historic train museum. It's one of the last remaining ones, and we need to make sure that it does not become an asset to Burlingame when it is an asset to Millbrae.
Okay, all right.
Add some.
Yes, Mr. Conrad?
Yeah, so I'd like to, so just to take a step back, what's really causing this is the need of high-speed rail, or the desire of high-speed rail, to add 2 additional tracks through the Millbrae station area. One driver for that is the need to comply with ADA. Their platforms are a different height than those of Caltrain's, so they want to have a separate, they need to have a separate station platform. I believe they're also planning, and we'll hear this more from them on a technical basis, to be able to use this as a passing track. So if they're slower moving trains, they will use these tracks to get around them. What we're really asking in the letter is, and it is more relevant to their environmental document, but it certainly doesn't help to continue to make these points, which we have made, is that they need to consider some other alternatives to what they're proposing. Years back, they mentioned that they might be able, or they indicated they could underground these tracks, which would have a much smaller footprint and wouldn't have nearly the impact it has on Sarah Station and on these, now we're seeing these neighborhoods. They've since said that that's not feasible, or they really haven't shown us the background for that. The explanation of why that's infeasible will be required to be in their environmental document. We'll be able to analyze it at that time. Similarly, with the alternative of going to the other side of the BART station, where BART does have that 3rd track, which is, you know, hardly ever used. We haven't seen any engineering study that has shows the feasibility of doing that. So either one of those alternatives would certainly be much preferable for Millbrae, and I think we can and should continue to make that case through this process. The takes from the neighborhoods are news to me, but again, that is part of the wide footprint to add those 2 additional tracks through this area. So We have met with them. I mean, certainly we've asked them to include these. They've indicated they don't feel those two other alternatives are feasible. We've also advocated very strongly against the surface parking lot, which just seems to completely go against everything they've said. I've sat through presentations with the planning director at a national transit-oriented development conference where she talked about all the great transit-oriented developments they were going to do. This is just 180 degrees from that. Now they've indicated that they are open to other alternatives on this property. However, they're under a time constraint to get their environmental document approved, and they're not willing to look at something that would complicate the project that they're proposing. So straight from their mouth, that's where they are. It's not that they don't hear us. It's just that they've got another priority, which is, they've got a drop dead date from the federal government in terms of their funding, and they don't want to do anything that would threaten their ability to get the environmental reviews completed. And under NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Act, they want to get their record of decision on file. So that's what we're up against. That's the basis for why they're acting the way they are. But I think we just should continue to strongly advocate for what we want here, because what they're proposing is not good for Millbury.
Real quick, Mike, do you want to just give a quick overview of the variant environmental impact report on the project that we had presented to High Speed Rail last year, which they're claiming incorrectly that it would slow down their environmental review process. And Mike's done a lot of research. And again, this is a year ago. If they would have included it a year ago, no time lost. Even today, they can include it in no time lost. But
yeah, I mean, we presented, and again, they're not against it, but we said, well, why don't you incorporate your station with a TOD development on this site? And you should, talk to Mr. Muzi and maybe the other property owners there and see what kind of an arrangement you can come up with that would, basically make everyone happy. Again, their response is, we don't want to take the time to do that because that could hold up our document. We don't want to involve other parties for various reasons. And they want to keep it simple and get it done. And they say, oh, when we're all done, we'll come back and we'll work with you. And by the way, they said, if you feel like starting on that process, go ahead. But they would be observers, not participants in doing that. So that's where I think something else to Tom, it may be worth noting, you may know more about this than I. The genesis of the need for this parking is not that it's really for the patrons of high-speed rail, because we had been told earlier they didn't need that, but evidently they're going to affect parking in the BART parking garage and on the Caltrain property. And so this is sort of make-up parking for that. I think they're figuring, so, I mean, that's just another example. I don't quite understand the planning thinking of this in terms, it certainly is cold to the desires and needs of our community, which is really, I mean, not, just not being a cooperative agency. But
Mr. Connor, and that's the first time I've heard of that this parking lot that takes up our entire Site 1 is to make BART and Caltrain happy, and that BART and Caltrain want a surface parking lot?
I wouldn't say happy. I'd let Tom describe it, but it's
compensate for other
compensate, spaces. Right? So it's not. I mean, I think they're saying we're going to take these spaces and we can't just wipe them out, so we've got to put them somewhere. So guess what? We're putting them here. That's really where it's coming from. It's more like an environmental mitigation measure, or not really environmental, but a mitigation measure for the impact that the project's going to have. Again, we have the language of the environmental document. We just heard them explain this in meetings, but I think Tom has more background on it than I.
And have we brought that up to Supervisor Pine, who sits on both boards, or not BART board, but Caltrain board?
I believe so, yes.
Mr. Mayor, can
we go through, let's stick with the order of hands here.
I've had my hand up for quite some time.
Okay, Councilman Lee has not had a chance to speak yet. Councilman Lee?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself. Yeah, so this TOD project is a state sanctioned project, right? It's a legal project. I've seen it on all the documents in the Associated Bay Area Government, Plan Bay Area 2050 and all these other documents. So am I correct that that's a state legal project, right?
Which project?
The legally approved project under
Legally
the
approved.
Yeah,
municipal
Mr. Conrad?
jurisdiction and authority under state planning law. So it is a legally approved project, correct?
But right, it's not a state project, although, I mean, certainly the ideas and the policies in Plan Bay area encourage transit-oriented development, and this is a priority development area. So it really runs counter to the plans, to the policies that are in Plan Bay area. Absolutely.
Even though
I'll just throw in there real quick the regional housing needs allocation as well, that this is a major.
Okay, well, I would make that a stronger point because right now it's just saying it's allowing, we're allowed to do this. I would rather say we are required to do this. We have to do this. And it's part of the Bay Area's plan for higher density around transit.
Yeah.
We can accomplish both with this, with the TOD and also melding what the high-speed rail is trying to do. I understand high-speed rail, they put on blinders. They're not going to, they're just working in a vacuum. That's pretty clear from what I'm hearing. So we can at least line up our ducks right now and be able to fight that fight later on. But the letter needs to be strong in terms of it has to be matter of fact. We're required to do this. It's by law, we're allowed to do this. We need to take out any feelings or anything like this. For instance, high-speed rail staff's zeal to compete, take out the zeal part, just say, this is what, and if you point out that it's their staff that's doing this, then their higher ups are probably not going to be listening because, working in government for so long, I know that management is not going to take that lightly unless somebody like Jackie Sphere, Congresswoman Jackie Sphere, or some of our higher electeds come out and lobby for Millbrae. But or we have legal emphasis. So in this letter, I like to try to make it more of it sound like more of we have a legal requirement to do this, and I think we do, and we have to, and this is all within the Plan Bay Area 50 plan and all the other transit issues that we've been talking about, that the Bay Area's been talking about in the last 10 years. So try to be more, we're required to do this and more factual. And at least if they're not going to listen to us, at least we have this to fall back on later on when we need it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. Can I ask Mr. Conran just a process question here, since we are getting, several different, several different pieces of input here. Since this is not, a legislative act of the city council, does it still, it's not like an ordinance or resolution. Does it still fall under the scope of the Brown Act in terms of incorporating ideas from the 5 council members into one letter?
It does. I mean, I think the best thing would be everyone provide their comments tonight. There are Brown Act cases where multiple members of a board, share authorship of something outside of the meeting, and that's been criticized. So I think the closest thing you could do, if 1 or 2 members of the council wanted to be a subcommittee, or 2 members of the council wanted to be a subcommittee, they could work on the document, hopefully bring something back that when you meet on the 26th, you could you be hopefully close to final, and you could get a sign off. But we really shouldn't have 5 authors working at the same time outside of the meeting.
Understood. Okay, thank you, Mr. Conran. Okay, let's see, Vice Mayor Schneider.
I just wanted to use this. I ran into a couple of Hemlock residents at Fiddler's Green picking up food for Mother's Day. And they said what they had heard their neighborhood was concerned was that there would be takings of their backyard. And I didn't know anything about it. So to the people of Hemlock, I apologize. I told Mr. Shaheen that to my knowledge, there was no takings of backyards, and I apologize. Because clearly, even if the line moves a little bit closer to the track, there is a taking of your backyard and in some cases of your home.
Thank you.
Oh, and then the
Councilwoman?
other part, in the letter, I'm sorry, in the letter, we cite Diridon Station. It was in the news a month or 6 weeks ago that for the Diridon Station, they are planning on taking, I think it's up to 14 homes, so that they can build a double-decker train station that's also multimodal like ours. So I don't know if we want to bring up Diridon where they're taking away homes. It might be setting the wrong stage. We should probably do a little bit more research of where they are right now. I think they had everybody's approval, and I even talked to one of the homeowners down there because I serve on another group with that person. And they're like, no, we're okay, we understand. And it's like, okay, and they think, well, maybe ultimately it'll only be 6 houses or so, but originally their plan for Diridon is to take quite a few houses away. And I don't want to lose any housing in Millbrae at all.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. Okay, Councilwoman Oliva?
Do we want to take council's recommendation, because I agree with everything that's being said, to put a subcommittee together to put this letter together?
Okay, so I had been working on the draft. I know Councilwoman Pappen had also put in comments on the draft. So perhaps the two of us can continue to work on this as a subcommittee, an ad hoc subcommittee. Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear Councilman Lee.
I said I'm fine with that.
Me too. But let's make it stronger, shorter, and a better ending. Close it
I don't
out.
necessarily.
Thank you very much.
Let's take out some of the touchy-feely stuff too. Okay.
Yeah, take it out.
Yeah, we get, believe me, I'm not touchy-feely. Let's, I'd like to be, Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Sure, yes.
Okay, we want to be clear to the viewing audience that none of the council members was aware of the impact on the existing homes here. This is the first we've seen of this. And as far as I'm concerned, the way this line is drawn, you've basically devastated each and every home along that corridor. So we need to be clear for that. This proposed plan is not only a destruction of approved housing, but existing housing and the commercial viability of the city of Millbrae. So without beating around the bush here, this claim that High Speed Rail doesn't want to hold up their document is basically where we say TOD, it's TOBS, because this is a tragedy. This is the largest intermodal center west of the Mississippi. And to think you're just going to put a passing lane or a couple passing lanes here, not access BART's unused track and put in parking is a tragedy. So I look forward to working with the mayor on this. And I do believe that, contrary to Councilmember Oliva, we need to alert all of our legislative representatives. And I think we also need a plan to go to the Caltrain board ourselves and make this presentation, because as was noted here, and I think we should take all of it out as dealing with staff, we need to present this to the board and make sure that we present our case and show the tragedy which is being presented. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Vice Mayor Schneider.
The whole, looking at the photograph that's up right now, where you can see the two tracks right there, adding that additional track, and by the time they're done, it is turning Millbrae, which is not an industrial town, into an industrial site. And that's appalling. So, I mean, I am with Councilwoman Pappen. To me, They can underground in San Francisco, they can underground in Millbrae. We are not an industrial town. We are not a land of 6 lines of railroad tracks. It is just not acceptable.
And Mr. Mayor, too, as was pointed out here, if their concerns are ADA accessibility, then the original plan, which they presented to us, the underground station is the best way to address ADA compliance and accessibility for everyone using a station, a high-speed rail station. Yes, and that picture should also be used in our presentation because that's what we were sold on back when this was presented to us. This sudden change is not acceptable.
Mr. Mayor, can I make something clear?
Yes.
I'm not sure,
Yes.
Councilmember.
Councilman Oliva?
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Peppin, contrary to what I said, I think that all the electeds in our state and our federal should be engaged in this. So I don't know where that came from, but what I want to propose is if there's a drop dead deadline at the end of this letter, like by this date, we want to know where the meeting is and we want these people at the table.
No, I'm just saying I thought you meant you shouldn't copy them. Oh, sorry.
No, not copy them. They should be at the table for us.
Thank
you.
Thanks. The letter is a comment on the plan. I don't think the letter is also a request for yet another meeting. We can have a separate letter that's a request for more meetings, which they then tend to ignore.
It's for resolution. And the only way to resolute is to, like, if we want to keep doing letters back and forth, we're not going to get any resolution. And if you guys, I mean, come on, the definition of insanity, we're doing it. We're doing the same thing over and over and again, same results. Let's do something.
There is one difference. Up until tonight's meeting, we haven't gone as public with how devastating what high-speed rail's decision was when they came to our council meeting last July.
Okay,
how many projects it put on hold. When I meet with community leaders, including housing leaders, like, Ann, we don't know anything about that.
So nail on the head. You want to go public? Is this
we want to go public?
Is this the way to go with a letter?
So the letter is a comment on the business plan. That is one component of what we are doing here. I think we also can, try to set up a meeting again, which we've done. I know that the board, well, obviously things are different now with the shelter in place, but the high-speed rail board did have a meeting in Morgan Hill and did a tour of the site in Morgan Hill. They've not come to Millbrae. Only one staff person has come to Millbrae. So I think there's I think parallel paths that we can be on at the same time. We can comment on the business plan, we can comment on the EIR, but then we can also engage with, our state legislative delegation. Senator Hill, for example, set up a meeting with Bart to discuss homelessness. Maybe he or Assemblymember Mullen would be willing to set up a meeting with higher level high-speed rail staff to discuss the Millbrae station and other impacts throughout San Mateo County. But I wouldn't say that we should take certain things out of the letter just because there are other paths to go on. We should be doing all of the above.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you reminded me of something else. The only hearing that they're going to have, the only public workshop, town hall, whatever they're calling it, for high-speed rail in San Mateo County is in Redwood City. So Brisbane, which is also having a significant impact by high-speed rail, basically they're turning Brisbane into a rail yard over their voter-approved project. Their meeting is either in San Francisco or in Redwood City. So we might want to include that they have rarely ever had a meeting about Millbrae in Millbrae, which clearly our residents don't go to Redwood City to go to a meeting. Before COVID, traffic was horrible. That alone would keep people from going. So clearly they're running a public process that's intended to not have any public input.
Yeah, and just well, I don't know if it's only that, but the comment that I heard from an elected official from Redwood City was, well, why are all the high-speed rail community meetings in Millbrae, why aren't they spread out? This was maybe 6 months ago or so. So I think having one meeting every few months in San Mateo County is probably not enough. regardless of where that meeting is. All
Mr.
right.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor,
let's-
we have 200 people on Zoom.
A lot of comments here. Okay, Councilwoman Oliva, yes?
We have 200 people on Zoom Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think we can handle this.
Okay. Speaking of that, were there any public comments received on this item? Ms. Lewis?
Yes, we did receive 4 items of public comment, and I
Okay,
can read
let's hear them.
those. Okay. And I will be timing again, as some of them are lengthy, so just bear with me as well. Okay. The first public comment is from Stephen Green. Good evening, Millbrae. Good evening, members of the City Council. As a member of the Millbrae community who cares deeply about adding more housing as well as more transit, our situation with regards to TOD1 and the high-speed rail project is unfortunate. However, I find it has been difficult as a bystander to determine what exactly the conflict is, and I would appreciate some clarification, hopefully with maps. For instance, is any city land being given over to facilitate TOD1? Is high-speed rail still intending to take all of the land west of the station to El Camino Real? What part of the high-speed rail land plan is for the station and right-of-way acquisition, and what part is for parking? As far as I can tell, since the draft DIR for the San Jose to San Francisco segment has yet to be released, none of this is really known to the general public. Since the information available to me is lacking and the business plan barely touches on Millbrae, the tone of the letter seems unwarranted, especially from a council that I hope is committed to compromise and collaboration. Perhaps the city could help better illustrate the disagreement for the public. Additionally, I'd hope the council would remove their suggestion to tunnel the Millbrae station section of the track, since it seems only to be based on wishful thinking and not any grounding in cost or practicality. US rail tunneling costs vary between 500 million per kilometer to 4 billion per kilometer, as compared to surface rail, which is typically around 100 million kilometer, and tunneling under a large intermodal station and 5 active tracks doesn't seem much simpler than tunneling through San Francisco, like the letter indicates. We agree that BART should relinquish their 3rd track, but as their downtown San Jose project indicates, they are still operating under the illusion that they will circle the bay. So if the last 50 years haven't changed their mind, I don't think high-speed rail will either. Thank you, Stephen Green. The next public comment item is from Douglas Radke. I believe the city of Millbrae should try to mention in the response and reiterate the commitment it made to seamless transit back in January 2020, and how the current high-speed rail proposal is inconsistent with the guiding principles of seamless transit. I believe we can come to a healthier compromise which retains the housing and achieves the seamless transit obligations we'd like the region to move towards. The Sarah development in Millbrae, I believe, is incredibly important for the community and the region. The projects contain dire needed housing that would be unacceptable to just get rid of without exploring a better compromise. The station land is vital to the Millbrae future economy. Hopefully, the city can work with high-speed rail to explore other options that are cost savings or make mutual sense. Undergrounding is obviously an extremely expensive proposition, and San Francisco being afforded that position and not Millbrae must have some cost benefit behind it. As a matter of presenting a letter that is more concise, please also consider removing some of the excess rhetorical questions which stylistically should not be overused in a formal response letter. Thank you. The next public comment item is from Marge Colapietro. Honorable Mayor Holliber and council members, I have read the staff report and the draft letter to Mr. Richards at California High-Speed Rail Authority. The letter seems to be well written, factual, and to the point of what you wish to accomplish. I noted in the letter that there are 12 references to housing, and I'm very pleased with that inclusion as an essential part of the letter. I also noted that mayor and council members will send copies of the final letter to Honorable Congresswoman Spear, Honorable California Senator Jerry Hill, and the Honorable Assemblyman Speaker Pro Tempore Kevin Mullen. It is good that you bring our national and state legislators into the major problem at hand. I request that you add the following to your list to show added exposure of two important and strong authorities with a focus on housing. Zachary Olmsted, Chief Deputy Director, California Department of Housing and Community Development. Honorable Warren Slocum, President, San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, Housing and Community Development Committee. Thank you for your, there's additional information for the above parties as follows. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully, Marge Colapietro, Mayor Emeritus, City of Millbrae. And the final public comment item is from Vince Musi. Dear Mayor Holliber and council members, I endorse and second all of the statements and comments in the city's draft letter to California High-Speed Rail addressing its currently proposed business plan. In addition, I think it should also point out that when Millbrae accepted the Millbrae Station's BART station in 1997, it was with the understanding by all parties that Millbrae would be able to develop the adjacent west side of the station as an economic inducement for Millbrae, accepting the burdens the BART station would bring, not the least of which was a significant high traffic increase on Millbrae Avenue and El Camino. After years of the city's public review and revisions updating in 2016, the 1998 Millbrae Station Area Specific Plan, California High-Speed Rail, like BART and Caltrain, was informed of the design, uses, and impacts of the MSASP. The linchpin of the MSASP, as always, and is the relocation of California Drive to reroute vehicular traffic from the intersection of Millbrae Avenue and El Camino Real to California Drive. California High-Speed Rail voiced no objection to the city's original or updated plans for California Drive. In fact, High-Speed Rail representatives endorsed the plan. When High-Speed Rail's regional director was publicly asked twice about two public high-speed rail informational hearings the city set prior to the completion of the 2016 station area specific plan, what California High-Speed Rail parking study showed it needed for its patron parking at the Millbrae station, we were told that high-speed rail parking needs were to be off-site at SFO or at BART. We were told that high-speed rail had no designated high-speed rail parking. As the managing member of Millbrae Sarah Station, my consultants and I met at least 3 times in person and had telephone conferences with High-Speed Rail's Northern California Regional Director and members of his staff on more than half a dozen occasions. High-Speed Rail was fully aware of the Millbrae Station of the MSS was proposing up to 488 units of housing with 15% below market, 300,000 square feet of Class A office and 25,000 square feet of retail space in its project, with more than sufficient on-site parking for all of Millbrae Sarah Station's uses on its property. They never made any objection to our project plans or the plan's extension to relocation of California Drive. On 3 separate occasions during the city's years-long public hearings on the MSASP update, its environmental review and rezoning, the year that the half-long review and final approval of the Sarah Station project in April 2018, representatives, so I've run out of the 3 minutes of time. Would you like me to continue?
Yes, please continue since this individual is a stakeholder in the area.
Okay. On 3 separate occasions during the city's years-long public hearings on the MSASP update, its environmental review and rezoning, the year and half-long review and final approval of the Millbrae Sarah Station project in April of 2018, representatives of High-Speed Rail appeared before the Millbrae Planning Commission and City Council and stated repeatedly on the record that High-Speed Rail had no problem with the MSASP or the city's approval of the Millbrae Sarah Station project as it was designed. It was only after our April 2018 city approval of the Sarah Station project and after our project suffered months of unexplained delay in having our applications to PG&E for encroachment permits for the temporary relocation of utilities to start construction of our project and prior to start demolition, that we were told Caltrain would not agree to provide the last 200 feet of its unused right-of-way for the relocation and extension of California Drive, and would not allow PG&E the temporary relocation of utilities we require to start our project. We have since learned that this Caltrain objection was actually to accommodate High-Speed Rail's agenda, now stated in its business plan and High-Speed Rail's drafted scope of its planned EIR. It should be noted that the extension and relocation of California Drive and the use of Caltrain's last 200 feet of unused track right-of-way had been in the Millbrae Station area plan since 1998 and was included in the 2016 update. Caltrain had never voiced any objections to it since 1998 or during the 2016 update or during this Millbrae Sarah Station project approvals. The last 200 feet has no use unless it is used to accommodate high-speed rail and relocate Caltrain as now shown on the high-speed rail business plan. In the last 8 months, Millbrae Sarah Station has spent over $80,000 in engineering, architect, and parking studies to provide high-speed rail with over 50 pages of drawings, plans, and studies that would preserve the station area specific plan uses for the city and Sarah Station to accommodate high-speed rail and Caltrain's stated future station and track needs. The city has shown its good faith by approving the creation of the parking district in the Millbrae Station area specific plan to optimize the benefits of high-speed rail, Caltrain, the city, and Millbrae Sarah Station. We were told last week by High-Speed Rail's current regional director, his staff, and the staff of Caltrain that they do not have the authority to endorse or accept any of our plans. When we asked High-Speed Rail previously for an audience with their executive board or executive officers to show our plans, we were told that cannot happen until plans are accepted by the staff. The perfect bureaucratic circle. In 3 meetings with the new regional director and his staff over the past 6 months, we have been unable to get any affirmative indication that the solutions we have provided and proposed can be reviewed by High-Speed Rail's executive board or its executive officers. It appears we are just being played with a big stall. One item I would add to your letter. I would suggest you point out when your letter comments on the paltry 4 minutes in time that is cut from San Francisco to San Jose that you reference Exhibit 1.3, which illustrate travel times on high-speed rail. Conspicuously missing is the travel time between San Francisco and to San Jose. Also, the travel times shown are over double what the high-speed rail program ballot measure told the voters it would provide. Respectfully, Millbrae Sarah Station, LLC, by Vincent A. Musi, its managing member. And that completes public comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Lewis. I'm sure that was exhausting, but thank you for reading all of that. Okay, so we have
Mr. Mayor,
okay.
can I?
Yes, Councilwoman Peppin, and let's try to wrap this up.
I understand.
Okay. Yep.
For the record, the reference to San Francisco is being given $4 billion to underground part of high-speed rail. So as far as a reference, that's probably a more complicated figure than would be the cost in Millbrae to do the originally planned underground station. And I'd like to note too, for the record, this offsetting of parking throughout our entire development process. We asked High-Speed Rail, we asked Caltrain, we asked Samtrans to speak up when BART was reducing their parking and comment if they needed additional parking. That was the time to do it. They chose not to do it. And now to suggest that they need to offset what BART has failed to do is completely inappropriate and disingenuous. Thank you, sir.
Mayor?
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Vice Mayor Schneider.
The city manager and I have also received an email from a Caltrain's board member that basically said that the city of Millbrae approved a plan for land we did not have, basically telling us we were doing something illegally. It's not a private correspondence. It's sad because that's what staff is telling elected officials who serve on that board. And I think we really, again, going back to what Councilwoman Pappen said, we need a plan to reach out to all of the regional elected officials. City manager and I had talked about having a tour, and then COVID happened, because I think most of our peers in other cities don't realize just how small this area is, and Millbrae that we're only 3.1 square miles, that we have to have higher density in this area to get the economics to recover from regular business, let alone the new coming recession. I'd still like to go ahead and do that virtual plan. And I've been working with community groups to try to figure out how we might be able to do it in the time of sheltering in place. So just keep that in mind, and keep in mind that I think some of our fellow electeds have not been told the truth.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and also, you know, for the record, we do have the 2001 agreement with BART and also the transit district. And, you know, according to that agreement, once a development agreement is approved, which we've done, that land is to be transferred back to the city of Millbrae, at least the area adjacent to the pickup and drop off lot.
It's
Next to the train
excellent
tracks.
point.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, yes, Councilman Lee?
I'd like to thank my council members and mayor for their comments, and they're all very important things that our citizens should know, that we're trying to protect their best interests for Millbrae, and that we're fighting against the currents of Samtrans and BART trying to wrangle the high-speed rail through our TOD project without due consideration for housing. But I'd like to ask that we move on, and that I think all the comments, appreciate all the comments, and I think that I have confidence that our subcommittee can produce something we can look at.
Okay, so Mr. Williams, you've been taking good notes of all the comments that were made tonight?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, so we will work over the next couple of weeks to amend the letter to incorporate as many of these comments as we can while still keeping it succinct. And we have one more meeting before the June 1st deadline. So hopefully we can all agree upon the edits that were made, or at least come very close to agreeing upon those edits and complete it at our next meeting before the deadline. All right, let's move on now.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
yes, Mr. Williams.
Subcommittee or confirm a subcommittee?
Yes, so Councilwoman Pappen and I will work on it.
Okay, thank
just
you.
as an ad hoc subcommittee, not an official subcommittee of the council.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's move to council comments, and maybe we can begin with Councilman Lee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last weekend, we the Lions Club and the city bought masks, and on Thursday, Vice Mayor Snyder and Lions Stacy Jacobs and Lions assembled over how many? Probably about
was it 7,000?
Well, no, 6,000 masks, but they were all packaged in 6 and 3s. So,
and how many kits? It was a little over or a little under 1,100, I think. 1,100 kits.
Yes, and so that and they did it in a very good time. And then the mayor helped us drop off masks, and many council members helped out, including Councilwoman Pappen, who went 2 days. And we had a lot of community volunteers come out, and from Community Foundation and the school foundation. And we're very grateful for the camaraderie, and we were very heartfelt by the fact that the community all came out to help our own community. And I will talk to our leadership about, the Lions leadership about providing another opportunity. And we'd also thank City Manager Tom Williams and his staff, who made it all possible. They organized and provided us the electricity and the traffic control and the signage. And staff was, I think the parking lot looks spectacular afterwards. They did a great job trimming the landscaping all day. But I think that this just shows how much our community loves each other, and how much that we really care about our own citizens. So I thank all my fellow council members for your support. And I'm looking forward to our next. If you're interested in signing up for mask for the next project, you can go to www.millbraelions.club, and you can go there and ask to sign up for, or you can go to the city website and I don't think we have we don't link there yet, do we, Tom? We used to have a sign up list for wait list for masks, but I'm not sure where that link is. So we'll make sure that's there somewhere.
We still do actually, and we have received requests for about 80 additional masks since last weekend. So based on the council's previous comments this evening, we'll work city and Lions and see what we can do to provide more masks to the community.
Okay. And the Millbrae Culture Committee, which has no affiliation with Better Millbrae, has raised another $20,000 from the community. And they've donated most of those for masks and shields. And so it just goes to show you how much this community comes together and all the different groups come together to help out in this terms of crisis. Again, if you're a business and you're struggling, there are many avenues. Our city's trying to also making sure our businesses are we realize that they're struggling, and your bottom line is our bottom line. So we have huge interest in your success. So our city manager and the mayor is working very hard to get the information out. We have, if you go to sanmataeostrong.org, you will also, smcstrong.org, you will also see that there's many links for businesses, many resources. So you should go there, and there are grants available from SMC Strong, and they can help you find loans, low interest loans and grants as well. And I heard that our Congresswoman is working very hard, Congressman Spear is working very hard in trying to get us more money for PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program. And also I'd like to thank, I'd like to say that Better Millbrae trying to get more homes and more commercial business, although they failed in that respect. But they tried, but at least they got a grant. They got $120,000 grant from the BART developers to be used for the community. So if you have a project that would benefit the community, you can submit them to the Peninsula Business Association, Peninsula Chinese Business Association, and they are the third party in distributing those funds. Again, I'm looking forward to the graduation. You've seen the signs around the city for our graduates. It's very sad. One of the graduates, my son, who I'm very proud of, is very, very talented young man. Unfortunately, we will not be able to see him graduate, but and that goes with all of our graduates. And you let you know that our city is with you and that we congratulate you. We congratulate all the members from Cappuccino as well as Mills High School. Aren't you going to say something, Councilman Pete?
Go Cap.
Councilman and Councilwoman.
Go Mustangs, I guess.
I thought you went to Mills. Okay.
Gina and I both went to Cap.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you went to Mills. All right. Any rate, I didn't go to either, but I was. And
We'll
also
forgive
like to thank the Mills. I'd like to thank the Mills PTA for honoring me as one of the Parents of the Year for the music group. It has been a pleasure, and I hope that this, as my position as a council member, we will continue, and this council I know will continue to support our students here. Many of them are Leos, so we think that that's we get to see the outstanding work that our young citizens are doing. So I guess I'm gonna have to say go Slugs now, because my son's been accepted to UC Santa Cruz, the computer science program. So
Congratulations.
yeah, very good news.
Yeah, he's grown up before our eyes.
Right. So I think we have my meetings. I won't have much to say because my meetings are coming up in coming up weeks. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Lane. Congratulations again to Nikki. All right, Councilwoman Pappen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In complete agreement, congratulations to all of our graduates, whether it's Cappuccino, Mills, Taylor, everybody. We are so proud of you all, and hopefully we can continue the celebration. Additionally, our businesses are our lifeblood of the city, and we are committed to helping them recover from this pandemic. So whatever we can do, and I hope we can act more quickly now, with the recovery period, as was mentioned earlier. Thank you to everyone, and keep getting the takeout and wherever we can go there. Appreciate it. Also a big thank you to the Lions Club, the El Rancho, the Viking Parents Group, who are still taking donations for our residents who are in need, who have lost jobs, and also the victims of the fire. So the El Rancho has stepped up, the Lions Club, the city, the firefighters union, everybody trying to help these families get back on their feet. We look forward to working together to help them through that process. I will note that we all got an email this morning from a resident regarding the development, the BART development there, and very loud noise from trucks emptying large bins very loudly. So Mr. City Manager, I hope that's being addressed as not a acceptable part of this development, which again, still does not have a final building permit. And we are waiting on parking studies, demand, or traffic demand studies. So this, again, I think this whole discussion tonight is impacted by some of that as well. It was fun handing out the masks. Thank you, Council Member Lee, and also some students that showed up to help give out the masks. We have had additional requests, so I hope we can do that again. I will say too that I have been appointed to the Blue Ribbon Transit Recovery Committee, part of MTC, and they are responsible for giving out the CARES money to all these transit agencies who are down by 95%. But I think we all understand that no one is going to get back on public transportation unless it's safe for the riders and for the transit providers. So that is the primary goal in the second round of money that's going to be distributed here, and also viewed as a way to finally get these transit agencies more in line, more seamless, as this council has approved the seamless principles. So we're hoping to work in that direction. The first Blue Ribbon Commission will meet in just about a week or so to hopefully get people pointed in the right direction. I know the mayor was a big public transportation user prior to all this sheltering in place. And again, Millbrae is deeply affected by all of this, and we are in this together. So I hope that we can work together and head towards recovery for everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Let's go on to Councilwoman Oliva.
Sorry if my dogs are in the background here. It's raccoon time. But being the senior committee, that's why I'm here for the seniors. Whoops, wrong seniors. Well, Mills seniors, I'm like congratulating, and I know that's like such an important time in their life. And I am Nikki. He's a special part in my heart, and I congratulate him and all Mills, Cap, of course, and Sarah and Mercy and all of the above. They're all amazing, and so socialization is so important, and for the seniors in high school as well as the seniors in our community. And so I have been in touch with our seniors that that usually come together. And like I said before, they'd like to figure out how to Zoom and how to participate in our community. So we're going to work on that. As far as small businesses go, surprisingly, they've been so resilient in April. We'll see what happens in May. But we do have a San Mateo Strong Fund that has topped $8.2 million. And 3 people in our community, I'm going to see who they are. They are GAO's Group Inc., International Cultural Exchange Center USA, and Pro Champion Investment Inc., DBA Wonderful, has all received $10,000 from San Mateo Strong. And every dollar donate goes to those that are in need. And so I'm very proud to say that We've been part of that in this whole group, and thank you so much for Samsita and making that happen. As far as the PPP goes, they've been super amazing. You know, everybody knows I have a small business, and I did apply, and I got some help, and we got some good support from the PPP, from the people that are working as independent contractors. And I know for a fact, they've been super, super grateful. So thank you so much. And other than that, we have a SAL board meeting coming up on Thursday. I'll let you know what's going on. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot to be talked about for all of the kids that rely on the Sheriff's Activity League to support their outside activities. And I am going to report later or 2 weeks to what's going on with that. Thank you guys. One other thing, you know, I didn't have the opportunity to give out the masks. Sorry to say, my husband has he's one of those high risk. And so I've been very, very, I guess, isolated, and I've been in shelter in place pretty strongly. I haven't even seen anybody but my mother in the house. And I thank you guys so much, because I've heard nothing but great things about giving out the masks with the Lions and everybody that's done that. And I know there's thousands of masks went out, and I'm very grateful and thankful. I wish I could have participated.
Now, we know you're very supportive. Don't worry. We know that you have to stay home. So
I really do. And it's been like, I'm going crazy, but I have priorities, and I got to take care of my husband and make sure that nothing comes in this house. So thank you very much. The stay in place has been really good to me. My husband's healthy, and I'm very grateful to those that are participating in the shelter in place.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Oliva, and I hope he continues to stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Oliva, you know, I have a high at-risk person too, and I have been pretty good at trying to stay home except for when I have to. And when we put the mask together, how difficult it is to stay 6 feet away from each other. It was really lovely to get to see lions. We're a very social group. So that's been hard, but clearly #1 responsibility is caring for our loved ones. So I know you were there with us in spirit.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay, so moving on to staff. I did get an email from the County Bicycle Pedestrian Committee that the grant process will be happening this summer. So we're going to need to be gearing up for that. I need to get you that email forwarded out. They haven't released the grant yet. I don't even remember. It's been 3 months since we've met. I don't remember the focus of it, but please have staff get ready for that grant coming up. Like the Senior Commission, the 2 committees that I liaison with, the Environment and Community Enhancement Advisory Committee and the Cultural Arts Advisory Committee, would love to be able to meet by Zoom. So I'm glad to see that the city is feeling more comfortable that we can start re-engaging our committee groups together. I want to give a huge thank you to our park staff and John Gianoli and Mackenzie Brady of Recreation it was less than, I think, 5 days between when the county said we could open up the community garden, that staff wrote the rules for social distancing for the community garden and spiffed it up. And I'm very grateful, and I've heard good things from a couple of the gardeners up there. So thank you so much to staff. Now to some less good news stuff. SFO noise. We are working, or I should say that the city manager and I have been in discussion, and I've been in discussion with the chair of the roundtable, who happens to be our fellow council member Burlingame, Ricardo Ortiz, about the fact that there's so many fewer airplanes right now and how quiet it is. And I went to listen, specifically to listen for our current noise, and a lot of the noise that Millbrae is attributed to or with is coming from the SFO facility operations. What that means is that's the baseline noise. And on top of that baseline is other noise. And that is the data that they use for drawing contours, which say which homes qualify for the insulation program. And insulation is a fancy way of saying of both insulating your attic and putting in windows and doors that may not vibrate or can do better sounds. We put in new windows here in our kitchen last year. They're the latest, greatest, and it is amazing to me how the new technology is so much better than what some of our Millbrae homes were done back in the late 1980s, early 1990s. So that said, we're trying to capture new baseline noise information for San Bruno, Millbrae, but really Millbrae, Burlingame, Hillsborough, because we're in this terribly unique period right now where it's so nice and quiet. The last 2 days, it was pretty noisy because with the weather, the flights change. But be aware that we're looking at baseline noise. And there was another thing that I discovered when I reached out to the managed lane people. The managed lane people only accounted for the noise from the managed lane. They didn't look at the noise of SFO. They didn't look at the noise of 101 or BART or Caltrain or future high-speed rail. And I have a theory, and I'm now checking with each transportation project of how they account for their noise. If each group gets to look at it individually and not accumulatively, we, the people of Millbrae, get bombarded with more noise and we don't get the mitigation that we should be getting. So if you look at that yellow line in the high-speed rail project today, they're going to take away vegetation. Vegetation is the one thing that can absorb noise, and we should be advocating for that. Managed lane project came back to me and they said, well, Vice Mayor, we're not doing any noise mitigation for Millbrae because you're not noisy enough here. So whereas farther south along the peninsula and 101, they're putting in noise mitigation, we are getting none because they only looked at the noise from that project. So we really need for all EIRs to be pushing on noise mitigation, trees, long-term tree maintenance and programs like that. Which leads me to the thing that's eaten up most of my time the last month is serving on the county's long-term planning for COVID-19. I heard the owner of the Millbrae Pancake House, which was, as a Cappuccino graduate, it's a big part of all Cappuccino people. So thank you for being here for all these decades. The problem, we are trying to roll out programs, but as an elected official, we speak with one voice, which means it takes a little bit longer, and we need the county basically to tell us what we can and cannot say. I may not be PC in saying that, but the county is working on these plans and they have to look at everything for 30, 60, and 90 days out. And then it keeps changing. The state keeps changing, the federal keeps changing, but the real answer for all of us here in Millbrae is please continue to shelter in place. And as the city manager said earlier, testing. We will know so much more when we have more detailed testing. So please hang tight and still be good to each other. Councilman Lee spoke about sort of the xenophobia going on right now. Over the weekend, even in California, which breaks my heart, people are being mean and actually physically attacking staff at essential businesses who are asking the public to wear masks. They are doing it for all of our safety. And I haven't heard any of that happening in Millbrae. I think the people of Millbrae have been tremendous and so good, and I'm so proud of you. And I certainly don't want to hear that somebody at Trader Joe's got punched because they asked you to put on a mask. Please don't do that. It's for all of our safety. And with that, the other thing that I would just say is we've got a few more weeks at home. Please stay at home and use this time to get your house ready for fire season. Fire season, this is actually, it was last week, Fire Prevention Week, and I owed you information out there. I'll try to get it out this week. It'll be instructions on how you can prepare your home to be as fire safe as you can, as we all can. And I thank you. And I know that the Mills kids are picking up their caps and gowns this week. Congratulations. Send us pictures of you in your caps and gowns. I know that the city manager and I are talking about something we might do to celebrate all of our graduates. It's kind of learning on the go, but congratulations to everybody and to your parents, and good luck to whatever college you're going to or vocational school, or if you're taking a gap year. Congratulations to all.
Okay, thank you. Thanks again to the Lions Club and all the volunteers for putting together the mass distribution weekend. My wife and I drove around and distributed about 30 households around Millbrae. It was quite enjoyable and I think very much appreciated by many of our senior populations here. We also, the fire victims on Hemlock Avenue, they're now at the El Rancho. So thank you very much to the El Rancho for helping to house them for the next month. I know there were a couple of issues that had arisen from them at the El Rancho, and I believe our staff, city manager, is looking into that to address those issues. There's also an organization called Support Life Foundation that has stepped up to try to raise money for the victims to help them get back on their feet. Many of them are very low income, and they unfortunately many of them don't have anywhere to go after they're no longer at the El Rancho, so they're all looking for housing. If you're anybody interested in making a contribution, you can text the word fire victims, all one word, fire victims, to 71777. Once again, fire victims to 71777. The goal that they're trying to raise is about $55,000, about $5,000 for each family. They've raised nearly $33,000 to date, and I think they'll be wrapping it up in the next few days. So please go to that site if you're interested in helping out. So with that, we will adjourn and be back for our next regularly scheduled meeting of May 26th. So thank you all and have a good night. All right, good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Miss you guys.
All right, bye-bye.